Welcome back to the Burners Podcast, episode 3, take 2. We got
Yep.
Sabres legend and current color commissioner Rob Ray back
Commissioner, commentator.
again.
you
I'm
nimmer.
sorry,
Come on.
my brain's not working. It's down. It's under
Where do you
maintenance.
work? In a liquor store?
I wasn't working.
What?
Commissioner.
What the hell was that? Comment something.
I don't know. Color commentator, not commissioner.
I could be the commissioner.
No, you can't.
You should.
I'd change a lot of things.
Like?
Jeez.
That's a great
Instigator
first
rule.
question.
Goalies can't be hit. I'd change it all.
Would there be
Make
more
the NHL
fighting?
fun again.
Need to be more fighting because you know what? You need to entertain the people.
You're right.
Thanks.
That is true.
It's an entertainment business. Bottom line, entertainment business.
That's
Yeah,
true.
my type of commissioner.
My type of commissioner. All
All
right.
right, Rob, if we get this started.
We're
I
gonna
have a
start
question.
try this again, Commissioner.
Are you-
Yeah.
In your own opinion, who is the scariest person to fight, like ever, in your career?
The guy that kind of made me nervous, well, definitely made me nervous, was Joe Kosher. And Joe played in Detroit. He played the Rangers. He, not a super big guy, but his hands were like just big, massive chunks of meat. And when they hit you, it stung you so bad that it was just sick. And every time he hit you, you just, oh. So a lot of guys you could throw and hit, and you feel it, but it wasn't. But this guy tried to knock your head off every time he threw a punch. And I fought him probably 4 times in my career, and I don't know if I did very well. He hit me one time so hard in the eye when he was with the Rangers that I think before his hand left my face, my eye was shut already. That's how hard it was craziness.
All right, kind of following up Jeff's question. What was your favorite fight that you've had in your entire career?
You know what? I think the biggest fight for me was probably Dave Brown in Philadelphia. Dave was a big guy that, big reputation. He was a nasty man. And I got locked in with him one time in Philadelphia. And I could hear John Muckler on the bench yelling, "Razor, no," because he had coached Brownie in Edmonton, so he knew what he was like. And he was like, "No, don't do it." And so I'm like, "It's too late now." And we got into it, and both of our shirts ended up coming off. It was a long, dragged out fight. I finally caught him in the cheek and kind of stunned him a little bit. And it was right then. It was like, I can do this. I can do this at this level and against these guys. And for me, it was a huge fight, turning point in confidence, to kind of tell myself that, all right, this might not be so bad. I can make this happen.
All right. So we're talking about fights and all. How about that one game when in Quebec, a fan came on the ice and went to the bench, and then you just started throwing punches at him? How was that?
Well, what had happened, there was a 5-on-5 fight on the ice. All the guys on the ice were fighting. Herb Ragland had ran into Clint Malarchuk, our goalie, and started a whole 5-on-5 fight. So we're literally watching it from the bench. And all of a sudden you look up and you see this guy sitting on the top of the glass, sitting there. And it was like, well, what is he doing? So John Muckler's like, I'll get him. And I got a great picture of Mux just going to poke the guy. He was going to push him back over the glass into the stands. And just as he got there, he jumped in. And I had got down to where he was. We grabbed on him, threw him onto the ice. And then he jumps right back up and comes running right back to where I was. And I had grabbed him by the hair with my left hand. I had his head laying on the boards. I'm punching him. And I think it was 17 or 18 times. I stopped because my hand was getting sore. And by that time, the cops had got on the ice, and I just let him go, and they tackled him to the ice. In my left hand, I had a ball of black hair that I had pulled out of his head from hanging on to him when I was hitting him. And my right hand was so sore I had to stop. And here's these cops jump onto the guy, wrestle him onto the ice, and then get him off the ice. And they come back out, started picking up bullets off the ice because they had fallen out of the one guy's holster or whatever it was called for the police officer. And you just sort of sat there and it was like, what the hell just happened? And, you just all of a sudden the refs were like standing there and, all right, let's get the game going again. So it was weird. But the guy afterwards, I guess, did a interview sometime down the road. And what he was doing was protesting the violence in hockey. Meanwhile, the fight was going on the ice and he jumps into the bench and that happened to him. So that protest went bad.
Did you get in trouble at all for beating him up or anything?
No, I got nothing.
Really?
It was. I got nothing. I didn't even get a penalty. For what am I going to get a penalty for?
Yeah.
No, it was just kind of afterwards. It was just they weren't really sure what to do. I don't think, and it was kind of just eventually just went away. And it was. I think I ended up. I don't know if as a disciplinary thing, just to show they did something. I think I paid a fine of $4,000 or something like that. Back then, that was a lot of money too.
Yeah.
It still is today.
A question I have, going off of the whole fights thing, are you the reason for the strap on the pants rule?
Well, I'm the reason that you have to tie down. Those straps were always on the jerseys, and a lot of guys used them, but I never liked using it. I liked getting the jersey off. And then when they put the Rob Ray rule in, obviously you had to be tied down. And if you got in a fight, jersey came off, and you weren't tied down, you get the extra penalty. But I went from not being tied down to finding out that I needed front and back tied down. So I'd have the back tied, and I'd have the front. I ended up sewing a snap on the front, which hooked to my pants that snapped together. So I was hooked together tight, front and back. So I went from nothing to doubling up, and that's just kind of the way I needed to do it. I found once you got it, because I wore the bigger jersey, that when it was tied in the back, they could just lift your jersey up, and then your head's in your jersey, and you're screwed. So this way, there's no way they could get them picking it up in the front. So once the rule was changed, it was a little bit of a modification, and then you kind of got back into the groove again.
All right, speaking about jerseys, what are your all-time favorite Sabre jerseys?
I'm old school. I'm totally old school in a lot of this stuff. I love the history of hockey. I collect a lot of the stuff that I can get from the history of the Sabres. I got things on my wall. They gave up swords and back in '70 to the original sponsors, season ticket holders, daggers. So I'm into all the old school stuff, and I don't sometimes like the change. I understand it. It's a business thing that you change it. More jerseys are sold, but I look back and I love the old blue and gold, the old original ones, and then all that striping on the socks. It was unique. It was clean. It was classic. I liked how they used to do the old names on it. It wasn't the way they are now. They were kind of bigger, bolder name plates on the back. So I look back to them and I like it. But you know what? It took me a while to get onto the red and black and everything. And I like those. I didn't like the third jersey we had, the red one. I wasn't really a big fan of that. I still can't figure out what that was on the front of it. That was just a big black blob with the swords, and I'm not sure. But, this year I like the 50th jerseys. They were pretty cool. As long as it stays blue and gold. I wasn't a fan of the slug too much. I never had to wear it, but for the most part, it was good. The black and red, but I think it's not Buffalo Sabres. You don't relate to the Buffalo Sabres as black and red. It's the blue and gold.
Are you sorry? Are you happy they're going back to the blue, the different blue next year?
You know what? You know what it is, guys. When they have the different jerseys, it's a marketing tool, and it's something that once it comes out, then everybody's got to buy it, and it keeps everything fresh, and you keep stuff moving that way. So I get that part. Like I say, as long as it stays to the blue and gold, I'm cool with it. You can meddle around with it a little bit if you want, but I kind of look at, say, Toronto and Boston and Montreal and these teams, they haven't really changed it. It's very similar from 100 years ago as to what they have today, and I kind of like that. Chicago, same thing. You have the odd jersey you tinker with here and there that you wear as a third jersey or slide in once in a while, but I'm still just the old school, original stuff that that I think you not so much the kids now, and maybe even you guys, you may relate to the black and red a little better because of your age or something, but for the most part, it's Buffalo Sabres is the blue and gold. It's the cross swords, and it's the white buffalo in the middle.
So, a legend. Who is doesn't have to be from the Sabres, but who's your favorite player of all time to either play with or to watch or be around?
You know what? Growing up, I liked Bobby Orr, and it was a pretty big thrill the first time I got a chance to meet him. It was pretty neat. And I was pretty excited about it. As far as somebody that when I played against him and I sat there and I was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable, was Wayne Gretzky the first time, and it was in Edmonton. And, you just sort of sat there and you just watched what he was able to do out there, control the tempo of a game. It was just amazing that every time he touched the puck, there was some kind of an opportunity, it seemed like. And, I was sitting there as a 20-year-old kid, and I forget who I was sitting beside, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. And he looked at me and he goes, it's amazing how one guy can control the tempo of a whole game. Whatever way Wayne wants to play, that's the way the game will go. And I don't think there's too many guys out there that you could ever say that could control the tempo of a hockey game. He might be able to do something when he's on the ice periodically, but for a guy to control a whole game, it was pretty darn amazing.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll keep going. Another Sabres legend. What are your thoughts on Dominik Hasek?
Dom was a beauty. Dom was obviously an unbelievable goaltender that, something that we had never saw to that point, and he kind of reinvented the goaltending position, and it was just amazing to watch him every day. He was an extremely hard worker. Like, this guy, if he wasn't happy with his practice, if he wasn't happy with his game the night before, he worked his butt off the next day. There'd be times when he wasn't happy with practice, and he'd make you stay on the ice for the extra hour just taking shots until he was comfortable and happy with his performance. So, hard worker, really, really, really worked on the mental side of the game, understanding shooters, what guys are going to do, their tendencies and all that kind of thing. He was a very special guy away from the ice. He walked to his own beat. He did his own thing. And he was one of those guys on the team that we all knew what he meant to our team. And, you didn't worry about it. I'm watching the Michael Jordan story right now. Mm-hmm. And, Michael walked to his own beat. He was a competitor. He wanted to win, but he did his thing. And some guys didn't understand it sometimes, but they just sort of went with it because it was successful. And Dom was that guy as well. He did his own thing. He lived his life the way he wanted to live. And, we just made sure that he didn't get in trouble and was at the rink every day for practice or a game. So, you got to appreciate what the guy was able to do and how he did it. And, now being a little older, you understand, the way he was a little bit better and differently. And, you've come to respect it and understand it.
All right. We talked about living in Buffalo last episode and stuff. Have you ever?
The time that you didn't record.
Yep.
Do you ever go to Bills games or Bandits games and
We love the Bandits games. Love going to the Bandits games. My kids, when they were younger, they used to love to go. And what was cool about the Bandits games? My daughter was a dancer. She still is. And she loved that entertainment, the girls going out and the cheerleading and all that. So it kept her attention. My son, totally into sports, hockey and everything. He loved the physical side of it. And it was just the music going. It was constantly something happening. There was still fighting in that game. So there's so much happens there. And it's such not a party atmosphere, but just an electric atmosphere going all the time. And it was cool. And we loved doing it as a family. Bills games not so much yet. Used to go when we were younger. Now, it's just I'd rather. I'm too old now to go and do all that kind of thing. I just stay home and watch it on TV. At some point, my son, I want to get him out and give him the opportunity to experience it, but we have not been to a Bills game yet.
Another question I wanted to ask was, if you had one, who was your favorite coach?
Oh gosh, I was pretty lucky, man. I had some great coaches. Back in junior, Orville Tessier, he used to be the coach of Chicago Blackhawks, and he taught me an awful lot about how to act and what it was going to take, and from there, I walked into to Rod. Sean Van Boxmeer was excellent for me. Gave a lot of good advice, helped me out a lot. In the direction of the game that I was going to have to play to make it. Once I get here, Rick Dudley was fantastic because he played a very similar game, and he understood it, he respected it, and he gave you your opportunity. And John Muckler was a guy that, for me, I had a great relationship with him. He was a tough old guy, and we went at it a few times, but I think I earned his respect, and in turn, I showed him an awful lot of respect, and we worked well together. And he was somebody that I took an awful lot away from.
Nice.
Jack, do you have a question?
Well, I thought someone else was gonna bring this up, but you have your own restaurant.
You know what, guys? I had two, and I've sold both of them. And it was something that it was a lot of fun. And I got a buddy that we have started about six, seven businesses now. And we had a construction business. We distributed flooring. We did windows. So, and then two restaurants. We've done a lot. We had a full service automotive store. So, kind of build the businesses up, get them going, and then sell them. And that was kind of the challenge of getting it all going, and then just stepping aside and letting somebody else take over and go from there. But yeah, a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun. The one still in Eden, still named the Razors Doghouse, so it's cool to still have it going.
Yeah.
All right, so I have a question. So what do you think the Sabres have to do to get in the playoffs next season?
Well, I think it's obvious that they need some scoring. They need some secondary scoring. You can't just expect Jack and his line to carry the load offensively. I think that we got some good young D. Yogi Haru, I love that guy. Darlene's going to get better and better. I hope that Ristolainen stays. I think we got a pretty solid core back there that, they can, as they mature, they're going to get bigger, stronger, and be able to handle things a little better. I think goaltending, it'd be interesting to see if, who kind of comes out on top if they decide that who is going to be that number one guy, whether it's in camp now, it's part of the Sabres now, or it's somebody that's, going to be coming in as a younger kid. So I think that is going to be a huge question. But I think just kind of the middle of the pack, your second, third line guys need a little offense beefed up there. Also, in my eyes, I still think that we need to get a little bigger. There's too many nights where teams come at us, they play a hard physical game with us, and we've had a hard time with it. I'd like to see not so much the fighting side. I just, a couple guys that can go and play a hard, heavy game and, kind of maybe change that a little bit when teams are coming at us, that you can kind of counter it a little bit with them. So yeah, just a little bit of physical play, a little toughness. And I just think the maturity of the kids that have been there for quite a while. And, Jack just gets better and better every year. So, I think if you can fix that scoring depth in the second and third line, I think it'd go an awful long ways for us.
So if the Sabres don't make the playoffs next year, do you think Eichel will request a trade?
No, I don't think so. I think that, Jack's a competitor. He wants to win. He's a guy that he goes into every game and he wants to be the best. And he wants to be the best that he can be. And he wants, because he's compared to all these other guys, he wants to prove that he can, he is one of the best in the game. And I like that. I like the drive the kid's got. and he's come a long ways in a maturity. You can see him in his leadership. He's done a much better job, this year than in the past. It just gets better and better all the time. But no, you're not in a situation now where you can just sit there and demand trade. You guys got, I think, 10-year contracts, and you're not moving 70-80 million dollars worth of contract too often. So you don't just get rid of a player such as a Jack Eichel. So
Yeah.
at no point I think that he's sitting there saying, yeah, we want to make the playoffs or I want out of here. That's not what's being said. He's showing his frustration that he wants to be better. He wants the team to be better, and I think it's going to take the work of both sides to get to where they need to be. But no, Jack's going to be here, and Jack's going to be a huge part of this organization for a long time.
Hey, Razor.
Yeah.
Can you tell Chopin the Bulldog to lay off Ristolainen? Because they're going to drive him right out of this town.
Well, I'll tell you what. There's another guy. I have a very, very good relationship with Ristolainen. Okay, and he's a super guy.
Too.
But he is a competitor, man. What has he been here? 6 years now? 7 years?
Yeah.
And he's never made the playoffs. So he wants. That's him too. So for guys to get on him, that's craziness, because he plays against the best lines, the best players all the time.
Yeah,
and he logs a ton of ice time. He does a lot really well.
Head down when he's back there.
What?
Nobody skates across that blue line with their head down when he's back there.
No, they don't. And you don't find guys that can play that style of game, plus be responsible offensively and getting better and better defensively. This kid was hung out to dry for a long time because he didn't have anybody to play with.
Yeah.
He was carrying the load way before he should have been because he wasn't ready. But I in my eyes, big mistake if he moves on, because I don't know how you replace a guy like that.
No, you can't.
All right, I got a question. So how was that 1999 playoff run?
It was pretty special because, we were just a group of guys, and we didn't have, we had Dom, but, really no superstar offensive player. Michael Peck, a very strong player. But it was just a hard-working group of guys that had a lot of fun together and liked each other. And when the time came to the game, we worked extremely hard. And I think for the most part, we just wore teams down for the way we played. There was times when Dom came up big, and then there was other games when he'd only get 20 shots and get a shutout. So I just think it was a year where everything kind of went right when the playoffs started. Our power play wasn't very good all year. The playoffs power play was on fire. I think we scored like 6 shorthanded goals in that playoff run that year. So there was a lot of good things that went on, and timing was everything. We had a good, healthy group of guys, young, eager guys. But I'll tell you what, we had a lot of fun doing it. And it was something that, you look back now, and it was a very close-knit group of guys. And it's neat when you get a chance to see them, because it's like you never left. And, there was a time there when I think on that team there was only about 4 or 5 guys maybe that were married. The rest were just all young guys, just having fun and being together, and spending time together for a team like this it's important, because you get to know each other more than just the guy at the rink. You get to know them, and sometimes when it's called upon that you go that little extra mile for that guy. So I just think it was cool, and Lindy and Donnie Lever and Mike Ramsey, they were very good at that point too, laying out groundwork and how to beat teams, and we followed it to a T.
I think it was 2 years before that you weren't even in the playoffs.
No, and then we went to the conference final the year before against Washington, yep. And then the next year or two.
Was the year before that was when Derek Plant scored, wasn't it?
I think it was against Ottawa. Yeah.
Game 7.
Yep.
All right, I'll let you guys go back and talk.
Get that guy out of there, whoever the heck he was.
That was Big Dave.
Dave.
Big Dave.
Big Dave.
All right, I think that's all we have for you.
All right. I have one more
Oh,
question. One
never
last one.
mind.
Oh,
What's that?
I wanted to ask, how did it feel to score your first NHL goal in your first game?
It was pretty cool, because you're on a major high of just getting even the chance to play, and it was all your dreams just were coming true, just being able to be in that game. And then when you step on, and you score your first shift, it was like, holy heck! And I think I told you before, statistically wise, it was the best game I ever had. A goal and assist +3 or something like that, and yeah, it's just as soon as you do it, the game's over. It's like you did everything you did to that point. I was
Yeah.
fortunate I scored my first shift and last shift, so it was cool that I don't know how many guys have been able to do that, but I can put that feather in my cap that first and last shift I was able to score.
So, how's your relationship with the current Sabres team? Like, do you know the players well, or?
Yeah, we're traveling with them all the time. Like we're on the road, same plane. You're always together. Um, it's you want to keep your distance a little bit sometimes too. Like you're talking to the guys all the time, and there's some guys that you feel a lot more comfortable around, and then there's others you just kind of give distance to you talk and but not really get in depth with anything. I think because your job too, you got to be fair to the people. You got to say what's going on, what's right and what's wrong, and some guys can handle that, other guys can't handle that. So you come out and say that somebody should have done this or they made a mistake here. This day and age, the player can't handle that sometimes. So you got to kind of keep that distance a little bit, but over time, you get to know a lot of these guys because you do an awful lot together. And like I said, with Risto and guys like that, you're comfortable and can have those conversations with about the game, not so much what they're doing. It's the game itself, and so you get to know them a little bit or what their thoughts are. So it's cool. It's the greatest job you can have. You're still at the games. You're still for most nights you're between the benches and it's you're right there. You're right in the middle of the action, and that's what it's all about. So couldn't find a better job. I'm going to do for a long time because the road wears you out, and it's just no fun anymore.
So, who do you think is the next man up when Rick Jeanneret retires? Who do you think's gonna commentate?
Well, Danny Dunleavy's doing them now, and probably he'd be the guy RJ said he's going to do this year, and then back it in. I'm not 100% sure. He said that about 10 times so far. But at some point it's going to happen. That would be Dan. Who knows what their plans are? But Dan does a pretty nice job. He does a good job at the games, so it's fun working with him.
All right, I think that's it, right, guys?
yeah.
All right, we appreciate you taking
Are you
time out
sure?
today.
Yep.
No, it's no problem. No problem. There's nothing I'd rather be doing on what is this? Saturday night.
It's Saturday?
Yep.
I don't even know anymore.
No, it's no problem, guys. No problem.
Yeah, thank you.
I didn't know. I
Thank
had
you.
to think about it as well because they're all the same now. When you're not.
Yeah.
No, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys. All right. If you
All right,
screw
have a
this
good
one
one.
up,
Thank you.
just drop a line, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank
you.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you got your room clean. Good to see you still haven't got a haircut. The mullet, the strong mullet going right there.
Mullet.
Dirk Diggler. Okay. So, all right, boys.
All right.
See
Talk
ya.
to you, man.
Thank
See
you.
you.
Thank you. See ya.
See ya.
All right, Jack, would you?
Podcast would like to announce that we got our first sponsor. You could go to thespacelights.com. They sell LED lights and like space lights, so your room looks like a galaxy. It's pretty cool. You could use the code BURNER to get 10% off. We'd like to thank them for this opportunity.
All right, segue. You ever wondering the right time to kiss your homie at midnight? Light up with space lights and you got the time for you. Nothing better.
Is that it? Are we done?
Yep.
Yo, we're not putting that in.
You have